Today I'm going to try to translate some of the things from the One Piece card game into the newest extension of the Dragon Ball Super card game, Fusion World. The first tip that I can give is understanding the combo step completely. See, in One Piece, you only have a defensive step, but in this game, you really have to put an emphasis on making sure that you put the right amount of combo in the offensive and defensive step. While in One Piece, you basically already know what your opponent's going to be doing and swinging with because of the Dawn system. Fusion World basically flips that on your head because pretty much your hand or opponent's hand is their Dawn and as well as their power. And of course, the activate battle step in the combo step makes it a little bit more complicated as well. This goes with the next thing, and that's getting used to combo power and numbers. In One Piece, the max amount of counter power that you can have is 2000. And because of this, the magic number is basically 7000. This is in order to pitch 2 cards out of your opponent's hand when you're swinging at their 5k leader. In Fusion World, it's pretty much the same, but you have to factor in super combos, which defensively can provide your opponent up to 20k in combo power. Since most leaders outside of Broly are 20k, you pretty much have to factor in the super combos and go up to that amount. However, this is important probably later into the game. You don't really want to do this early into the game. This is also why that extra cards are super important and powerful, because they mostly match super combos. My suggestion is just to keep in mind and keep track of those super combos throughout the game in their drop area. Next up is getting used to comboing on the field. Again, it just goes into getting used to comboing in general. And because you can use the things on your field, it really does interact with a lot of different things. For instance, if you played Otama into a character card in order to swing with it and just have a body on board and, you know, obviously make it easier for you to swing into a character card, you sort of lose that character outside of just being able to swing it later, or maybe you need it for something else. But in Fusion World, it's a little bit different. See, if you take a Whis or Gohan or whatever else that will minus a card on the field, the difference is that you can swing with that card immediately or just use it as combo power afterwards. It's definitely a concept that you have to get used to. Now let's talk about life totals. In One Piece, you are generally looking at 4 to 5 life. Usually like the first 2 or 3 cards out of your life can be used as a resource. You usually don't mind it most of the time. In Fusion World, you have 8, and the first 4 are pretty much just free for you, especially in this early meta. You basically want to take those as soon as possible. Since you can use your hand as a combo, those are going to be as a resource, and you really do want to awaken early on. That way you get other effects and etc, etc. The only caveat to this is that you know, in One Piece, it is less prevalent. You know, there's less things with banish, right? So swinging into your life and it goes directly to your drop, that type of thing, or trash. And in this game, critical is a lot more prevalent. There are leaders with critical on its face, and a lot of battle cards that actually have critical on it. Because of this, you really do want to avoid that. It is a bit of a trade-off to pitch a card out of your hand to combo out of those swings, and as well as just making sure that you take the easy ones, the ones that actually give you cards from your life. Now, the next big thing to know is getting used to energy. See, One Piece players have it easy. They don't have to think about energy or the resources they use, only how they use it, right? And this is no shade to obviously One Piece. I play One Piece, right? But Dawn is automatically given to you every single turn. It is a factor and a thing you don't have to think about. In Dragon Ball, it is completely different. It is something you have to think about every single turn for yours and as well as your opponents. Because obviously in Masters, if you come from Masters, the original card game, there's energy that actually interacts with the game. So far, I think we're fine. There's some stuff in green that kind of does things for you, but what it really comes down to is just making sure that you're making good decisions in placing your energy and making sure that you aren't making the decision of wasting it. If you come from Magic, then you might be a little familiar, but I mean, like, lands are a little bit different, because in this game you're basically discarding a card or getting rid of a card that you're likely not going to see again unless you have some recursions, some green stuff, whatever it may be. I would think about it in the way that in One Piece, if you had an effect that makes you discard, it is the same thing, right? If you don't need like a 10 drop bomb turn 3, then just go ahead and pitch it, or like an 8 cost or a 7 cost or whatever, right? Just get rid of those things if you don't need it or if you have multiple. Sort of the same thing for Dragon Ball. The next simple tip is don't tap out. Of course, in One Piece, it is pretty situational, right? You have to use these, event cards and things that interact with your Dawn, and it's very seldom, right? You don't really see that much. But in every color for Dragon Ball, you basically have these extra cards or event cards, right? That you can use on your turn and as well as your opponent's turn, and your opponent can do that as well. Things like Gallic Gun can draw you a card, Supernova can stop multiple attacks, and it really just comes down to taking account of your energy and as well as your opponent's for those offensive and defensive steps. Staying on surviving, in One Piece you can't attack going second, but in DBS you can. This of course accelerates the game, right? This is probably for a good reason. You have almost twice as life in this game, and it just functions a little bit differently, and you kind of need that hand size, right? So it's a huge part of the game. But this is something to keep in mind, because if you are more of an aggressive deck, then you're going to be swinging more often than not, more often going second, especially with that energy marker. You get that extra energy going second. Now the last two are kind of random, but I'll include them anyway. I think in One Piece you can reduce the power of a character card, and you can go below 0, but in Dragon Ball it's a little bit different. You can do the same thing, it will go below 0, but as soon as it hits 0, it can or will go to the drop. It is not considered as a KO effect, it is a more of a mechanics, rule processing type thing. This concept is totally different in both games, because in One Piece, for instance, if you round table something, you can more likely than not swing with your 1 or 2 or 3 costs, 1000, 2000, 3000 power into a pretty big card. But with Dragon Ball, you have to kind of think about the spot removal and as well as the usage for power. So you have to be a little more exact with the higher minusing power cards, and a little bit more efficient when it comes down to swinging into battle cards that you use for minusing effects. And lastly, battle cards have no limit. In One Piece, you only have 5. In Dragon Ball, you can play as many as you want, and they can all have rush. They all can swing as soon as possible. So, this does take a little getting used to, but it sort of translates to more actions per turn, faster play, most of the time anyway, and more complex decision making. And that's pretty much why the game is so good. But that is it. That is 10 things that I can tell a One Piece card game player who's interested in playing Fusion World. If you have any questions or anything that I may have missed, let me know in the comments below, and I will see you in the next one.